Are your coping skills positive or negative? Today we delve into this critical question that impacts our daily lives. Coping skills, the strategies we employ to deal with stress and adversity, come in two distinct flavors, positive and negative. This video aims to not only identify and understand these negative coping skills, such as avoidance, denial, and overworking, but also to highlight how they can be replaced with positive ones, like the 5 R's of coping. So, sit tight as we unravel the mystery behind our coping mechanisms. Coping skills, as the name suggests, are strategies or techniques that help us deal with stress, pain, and difficult situations. They're like the tools in a mental toolbox, ready to be used when life throws a curveball. However, it's critical to understand that not all coping skills are created equal. Some are like a trusty hammer, helping us to nail down problems and build resilience. Others, though, can be more like a broken wrench, causing more harm than good. These skills can be both beneficial and detrimental, depending on how they are used. Positive coping skills, such as meditation, exercise, or talking things out, can help us navigate through stress and come out stronger on the other side. But there's a darker side to coping skills too, the negative ones. These can include avoidance, denial, self-harm, and more. Now let's delve into the darker side of coping skills, the negative ones. Firstly, we have avoidance and denial. These are two common coping mechanisms that, while they may offer temporary relief, can often cause more harm than good in the long run. Avoidance, as the term suggests, is the act of steering clear of situations that may cause distress or discomfort. It's like choosing to take a detour instead of facing the traffic on the main road. It could be as simple as avoiding a conversation you know will be challenging, or as complex as staying away from social situations altogether to avoid feelings of anxiety. Denial, on the other hand, is a psychological defense mechanism where a person refuses to accept the reality of a situation. It is like standing in the rain but insisting that you aren't getting wet. This could mean denying the existence of a problem, refusing to acknowledge its severity, or simply not wanting to face the implications it might have. These coping mechanisms can seem appealing because they offer immediate relief from discomfort. However, they are akin to putting a bandage on a wound that really needs stitches. The wound might be out of sight, but underneath that bandage it's not healing. The potential harm from these mechanisms comes from the fact that they don't solve the problem. They merely postpone dealing with it. Avoidance can lead to missed opportunities, strained relationships, and even the development of phobias. Denial can prevent us from taking necessary actions to resolve issues, leading to prolonged suffering and potentially more severe consequences. It's not uncommon to resort to avoidance or denial. We all do it from time to time when we feel overwhelmed, but it's important to recognize when these mechanisms are becoming our go-to response. It's like developing a reliance on painkillers to deal with a recurring headache instead of trying to figure out what's causing it. In the short term, the painkillers provide relief, but in the long term, the underlying cause of the headache remains unaddressed and the pain persists. While it might seem easy to avoid or deny problems, it's not a healthy long-term solution. It's okay to take a detour now and then, but eventually, we all need to learn how to navigate the traffic. Next, we have self-harm and negative self-talk. Two coping mechanisms that, unfortunately, are quite common yet incredibly destructive. Let's explore these and understand why they do more harm than good. Firstly, self-harm. It's a distressing phenomenon where individuals inflict physical pain upon themselves. As a way to cope with emotional pain, it's a desperate attempt to regain control or express feelings that can't be put into words. But the relief is temporary, and the aftermath is a cycle of guilt and shame, reinforcing the same negative feelings that led to the act in the first place. It's a dangerous path, one that doesn't lead to healing or resolution, but rather deepens the wounds of suffering. Then we have negative self-talk. It's that little voice in your head that whispers, "You're not good enough, you can't do it, or you're a failure." It's a psychological form of self-harm, slowly chipping away at your self-esteem and mental well-being. Negative self-talk distorts your reality, making mountains out of molehills and casting shadows where there's light. The dangers of negative self-talk are subtle but significant. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you constantly tell yourself you can't do something, eventually you'll start to believe it. This could lead to missed opportunities, underachievement, and a diminished quality of life. What's more, both self-harm and negative self-talk can create a vicious cycle. The more you engage in these behaviors, the more you feel the need to continue them. It's a downward spiral that can be difficult to break free from. But remember, these are just coping mechanisms, strategies used in the face of stress or adversity. They're not reflections of your worth or abilities. And the good news, they can be unlearned. There are healthier, more productive ways to cope, which we'll explore later on. Negative self-talk and self-harm are destructive paths that lead to greater pain. It's important to recognize them for what they are: cries for help, signals that something needs to change. And with understanding and action, change is indeed possible. Lastly, we'll be talking about emotional eating, isolation, procrastination, and overworking. Let's dive right in. First up, emotional eating. This is when we use food to soothe our emotional discomfort. It might feel like the perfect solution in the moment, but it's just a temporary fix that doesn't address the root cause of our distress. Over time, emotional eating can lead to weight gain, health problems, and a disconnection from our body's actual hunger and fullness cues. Next, let's talk about isolation. When things get tough, it's easy to retreat and cut ourselves off from the world. But while solitude can offer temporary respite, excessive isolation can perpetuate feelings of loneliness and despair. We're social creatures after all, and we thrive on connection with others. Now, onto procrastination. This is a common one. It's the act of delaying or postponing tasks, often out of fear, uncertainty, or overwhelm. Procrastination might seem like a harmless habit, but it can lead to increased stress, missed deadlines, and feelings of guilt and inadequacy. Think of it as a temporary escape that only creates more pressure in the long run. Lastly, overworking. In a world that often equates productivity with worth, it's easy to fall into the trap of overworking, but working excessively without taking breaks for rest and rejuvenation can lead to burnout, health issues, and strained relationships. It's a classic case of short-term gain for long-term pain. In each of these negative coping skills, we can see a common theme. They offer a temporary escape from discomfort, but they don't solve the underlying issue, and in the long run, they can amplify our stress and unhappiness. These coping mechanisms, while they might provide temporary relief, can lead to serious consequences. So it's crucial to recognize them for what they are: signals that something in our life needs to change. And that, my friends, is where the journey towards healthier coping strategies begins. Stay tuned as we delve into the 5 R's of coping in the next segment. Now that we've identified the negative coping skills, let's move towards the positive side. The 5 R's of coping. Picture this: you're standing at the edge of a cliff. The winds of stress and anxiety are howling around you, threatening to push you over, but in your hands, you have a rope, a safety line. This rope is made up of 5 strands, each one representing a different coping skill. Together, they form the 5 R's of coping: rethink, relax, release, reduce, and reorganize. Let's start with rethink. This involves challenging your thoughts and assumptions. It's about saying, hang on a moment, is this really as bad as I think it is? It's about looking at the situation from different angles and finding a perspective that helps you cope. Next up is relax. This is all about calming your mind and body. It could be through deep breathing, meditation, or perhaps taking a walk in nature. The key here is to find what helps you unwind and incorporate it into your routine. The third R is release. This is about letting go of tension and stress. It can be physical, like going for a run or punching a pillow, or emotional, like talking to a friend or writing in a journal. The important thing is to find a healthy outlet for your stress. Reduce is the 4th R. This involves minimizing the amount of stress in your life. It might mean saying no to extra responsibilities, decluttering your living space, or cutting out negative influences. Remember, it's okay to prioritize your well-being. Finally, we have reorganize. This is about taking control of your life and making changes that promote stress management. It could be anything from setting realistic goals to adopting a healthier lifestyle. When used together, these 5 R's provide a comprehensive approach to managing stress. They are your safety line, your lifeline in the face of life's storms. They aren't a magic fix. Stress will still be a part of life, but with these tools in your arsenal, you'll be better equipped to face life's challenges head-on. The 5 R's provide a comprehensive approach to managing stress and dealing with life's challenges in a healthier way. In conclusion, it's important to remember that our coping skills can shape our response to stress. We've explored the pitfalls of negative coping mechanisms like avoidance, denial, self-harm, negative self-talk, emotional eating, isolation, procrastination, and overworking. We've also highlighted the 5 R's of positive coping: rethink, relax, release, reduce, and reorganize. It's essential to replace detrimental habits with these constructive strategies. Remember, it's not about avoiding stress, but learning to cope with it in a healthier way.